Good day, folks, and welcome back to the channel. And with the whole performance bagger scene going on and the recent Road Glide Double R coming out, I thought I would have a look at a performance bike from almost 20 years ago, the V-Rod Destroyer. But first, as always, we need to have a look at a viewer bike. And this is Dieter's bike, all the way from Germany. This is his 2012 Fat Boy. This is a 103 twin cam with Jekyll and Hyde exhaust, Good Guys air cleaner, stage 1 tune, sissy bar, teardrop mirrors, and a French lampshade out front. Very nice, fatty. Thanks for sending that in, Dieter. And if you out there want to see your bike in a video, send me some pics and info. My email address is in the description below. So a lot has been said about the recent debut of the CVO Road Glide RR and its absolutely ridiculous price tag. But what about a bike that actually made more horsepower, was smaller and lighter? I am talking about the 2006 Destroyer. But let's start several years before, in 2002. This was the first production year of the VR-SC V-Rod, one of Harley's most polarizing bikes. I remember seeing this bike in a magazine at the time and thinking, what the hell is this thing? It looked to me like a Harley that was trying to be a Japanese sport bike and doing an awful job. That was just my opinion at the time. Now, unlike the other production models at that time, the V-Rod was liquid-cooled. The engine was developed alongside Porsche engineering and named Revolution. The Revolution engine on the first V-Rod was a 1,131cc water-cooled 60-degree V-twin. These engines were made to rev higher and make higher horsepower, pretty much the opposite of the air-cooled, lower RPM, more torquey twin cams of the time. The Revolution put out 115 horsepower and 74 foot-pounds of torque. Not too bad for Harley in 2002. Also, unique to this bike, unlike other production models of the time, was the hydroformed frame and the fuel tank placement. The usual placement for the tank was just a cover for the airbox, as the actual gas tank was located under the seat. Over the years, the V-Rod got quite a few variations, like the Street Rod, the Night Rod, and the V-Rod Muscle. There were even a couple of CVO V-Rods, but none compare to the Destroyer. In 2006, Harley decided to introduce a high-powered drag bike, and the VRX-SC Screamin Eagle V-Rod Destroyer was debuted. Performance and power were the name of the game, and while it still had a Revolution engine, this was no mere stock motor. The bore on this engine was increased by 3 millimeters and paired with a 105 millimeter stroke. This made the displacement jump from the stock 1,131cc to 1,300. And next came forged pistons and high-flow cylinder heads. It had increased intake and exhaust valves, along with stronger springs, high-lift cams and dyno-tuned velocity stacks, along with 58 millimeter throttle bodies, brought in the air needed to produce maximum power. For exhaust, the Destroyer had a special 2-into-1 ceramic-coated exhaust system. For the rest of the powertrain, we had a lighter flywheel and no belt drive on this guy, It was a chain sprocket setup inspired by pro stock drag race bikes. It also came with a slipper clutch and electronic shifter. This made the shifting smooth, fast, and efficient. The cockpit comprised a programmable LED shift light and a digital tack, and just an ignition switch in place of a key. The switch gear remained unchanged, and the scooped seat made you sit a half-inch lower than the stock V-Rods, giving you a little extra support so you don't slide right off the back of this thing when you honked on it. Now, the big thing you'll notice when looking at this bike is the height adjustable wheelie bar on the back. You aren't going to go too far for too long if you can't keep the wheels to the ground when you launch this sucker. And launch it did. This 1300cc Revolution engine put out 170 horsepower and 100 foot-pounds of torque. And that was measured at the rear wheel, not at the crank. That was an insane figure for Harley Davidson at the time. This bike could do the quarter mile in 9 seconds, and each bike could do at least 160 runs at the track. And the bike was also an initial hit. The company initially made around 200 units to start, but ended up bumping it up to 646. But only 625 were made available to the public. But now for the downside, the elephant in the room, if you will. This bike, unfortunately, was not street legal. This bike had many non-street legal parts, making it a bike you could only use at the track. And that's its biggest drawback, a bike you could really only show off at the drag strip. But there was one other drawback that I should mention, and that is the price. I believe this bike listed for just over $30,000 at the time. In today's money, that would likely be somewhere between $45,000 to $50,000, and I'm assuming that's US. That's a lot of coin to shell out for a toy you're only going to run for 10 seconds at a time. But Harley made this model for 1 year only. And fast forward to today, and these bikes are somewhat of a collectible item. There are still some out there that have 0 miles and have never been raced. Actually, there's one for sale near me right now with 0 miles on it for about $12,000. And that is tempting, but really, I don't need any more debt than I already have. So that's my look at the V-Rod Destroyer, a Harley Davidson superbike from the mid-2000s. And I'm curious to know what you folks thought when this bike came out, or your thoughts on it all these years later. Was it a worthwhile model? Did it cost too much? I know I'd still like to try one out anyway. But let me know in the comments, and that will do it for me today, folks. So stay safe on the road out there, and I will catch you in the next one.